I want you guys to kind of imagine, I've got one of these 18 jerseys on for Manning, and I got the full gear, the helmet on, and I'm starting off in the shotgun, right? So Peyton Manning's either in the half shotgun or the shotgun. And so he's up here ready to take the snap. And he's yelling out, barking out the signals. Omaha! Omaha! Set! And then he runs up to the line and he's telling people, blue 42! Blue 42! What is he doing when he's doing that? He's ready for the snap, and then all of a sudden he runs up to the line. Does anybody know what's going on?
Audible.
Audible.
Adjustments.
Right, what's an audible?
It's like you see a defense that isn't, you're not matched up well against, so you're changing the play, you're kind of throwing a new wrinkle in there.
Exactly, and then it's like the clock's like 4, 3, and he huffs back, Omaha set! And they snap it really quick. We start off against Carolina, touchdown, 7-0. Go Broncos! Right, so he calls an audible. How did he do that? What's going on? What is it about Peyton that he runs up there and says the blue 42 thing? That audible, what's going on? What is he seeing? What's he reading?
The defense.
The defense, yeah. So there's a certain setup. Peyton's out there, he's scouting it out, looking around, and he sees what's going on with the defense, and he makes a new play call based off of that. So he's assessing the situation. So that's going to be one of the key points on this indicator that I've got. This is a way to really get a read on, in the same way that Peyton Manning does the read and does an audible. I'm trying to help find a better way for us to read our kids. And I think from all of our stories, from the flood to the things we've gone through, throughout all the different schools with these, all of the assessments that we're having to do, we all know how big this is to get a good read on the situation. We know some kids, even last year, there were some kids who were just getting out of class, and how do you tell that difference? And so in the same way that Peyton Manning's able to get up there and read the defense, I'm trying to figure out a way with this evolving process, really. And at the end of this, I want to talk about how maybe you guys can help me beta test it and help it keep evolving, because it's just something I invented, really kind of as a phoenix from the ashes at Frederick. So that's what this thing is all about. And I call it Solving Our Stress, because it's got SOS acronym. So Solving Our Stress, SOS. All right, so this is the basic chart that I'm using. I know there's a lot of green, yellow, and red systems out there, but just keep this time element's a really key piece. So I'll hit on that, and then I'm just going to hit over the overall chart. A green zone, a yellow zone, and a red zone. So I'm really into the red zone defense as we keep the kind of football theme going today. So we really want to prevent against going above this red line. So I just want to have kind of this key bright red line as the key feature of this chart. That this is where we want to keep our kids from, prevent it. I want to be more preventative. When we catch them up here, we had a yellow ribbon come out, and yellow ribbon's out there for way up here when the kids are feeling like, okay, I'm ready to take my life, I'm feeling suicidal, and we need something like, hey, I can't say that word, here's a card. So that's kind of basically what yellow ribbon's all about, is the very tip top of the chart. But my question, and even some of the family's questions, is, well, how do we catch this sooner? We don't want to just catch this at the last minute with our kid, and we just have something as a last resort. So with this preventative, there's healthy stress in the green zone, and then there's you move up toward pre-crisis, kind of like when you're, when the light's really yellow a long time and you're driving, you kind of know it's going to be turning red. You can gun it, but it's probably going to be turning red if it's been yellow for a while. So same thing, as you're moving up, and up, you're getting closer to that red zone, and so it's kind of pre-crisis. So the yellow zone moves from, hey, I accidentally got up there, and this is kind of normal range. So in the green zone, if we're looking at a student, let's say, for an example, a student might decide to take 3 AP classes, and that's the healthy stress. We don't want to have a kid that's ready for 3 AP classes take none. So they're going to take 1, 2, or 3, and then they're going to be kind of pushing their challenge up higher and higher. And then you might have a whole ton of homework, and then that pushes you up just a little bit in the yellow, and then they find a way to come back down. And also, the left-hand side, so we got those 3 zones. The left-hand side is basically like one of our safety plans. So we've got another 3 SOSs that I put together. But signs of stress, sources of stress, and sources of support. And then the signs of stress is pretty much what you show. The sources of stress would be your triggers, is the common language we always use. And then the sources of support is what you need at each level. So even at the green level, you have some sources of support. What do you think kids commonly throw out if it's kind of green level, they can handle it on their own? What are the kind of things that kids might turn to when they're trying to solve their own challenges? So how do they relieve their own stress by themselves? Sports. What were some of the other ones? Friends, yeah. Well, friends, I'm going to say that one for the middle. So just all by themselves, they can do things like listen to music is the biggest one we get in high school. Or maybe they just take a nap. They're just tired. And then in the middle, that's where kids will say, well, if it's beyond me, I ask them, well, what if it's beyond you? Because yellow is reserved for if it gets beyond solving your own challenges and you need a relief from a family or friend, that's where that kicks in right here. And then the sources of support at the top, that's where they need to know, oh, this is a red zone situation. And that's kind of kicking into the language at Frederick for some of our kids now, where they come in and say, well, I'm in the red zone and I need to come see somebody. And they know that's where we belong. So this would be your counselors out there. So that's kind of how this all breaks down. And the time element, again, is really critical, because if we're using yellow or green system and they're better at the end of the day, what's the context? Was that better for the day and the whole last month has been bad, or 3 months or 6 months or a year? So the time element, I'll hit on that again later. All right, so assess your stress is the first thing you do. So if you're in the healthy stress, you're kind of feeling relaxed and alert. If you move up, we've got a little kind of gauge there. You're kind of going up on the tachometer. So you might look in the mirror and kind of visibly see that you're exhausted, and then she's kind of freaking out. So like a full body emoji here, where as the stress goes up, it gets a little bit more intense. So then that's how you're assessing it, like the yellow zone, green zone, and red zone. It makes it a little bit easier. It's like basically the Likert scale flipped upside down. So we've used the Likert scale a lot, and higher scores are usually good. In this case, this is all kind of trying to figure out your stress. So we flipped it upside down, and as that goes up, obviously it gets worse in terms of the assessment. So the effects then, I've got a little story on this one. I had a teacher come in December last year, and we were just going through the recovery process in November from the losses that we had, and she just was like, I need to be here, but I'm kind of done. She just came into my office, and it's not like teachers come into your offices all the time. I don't know if that happens for you a lot, but this particular teacher hadn't come into my office to kind of talk or deal with things, and she's like, I really need to be here for the kids. This is such an intense thing we're going through, and I'm just not feeling it. I was like, well, let's see where you're at, and she was in the red zone, so she was feeling like it was getting to her. And it hadn't gotten to her for very long. I asked, how long? Well, just like today. I've just kind of hit my wall. I'm done. I've hit my wall. And so I threw on the extra thing, like, well, where's your fuel at? Because when you're looking at life generally, you've got energy to do whatever you need to do individually. But in our case, we've got our energy to give out to people as teachers or counselors. We've got to be able to be ready, not to just do what we need to do to get through our day or knock out our emails. We are here for kids. And so she said, well, I would be at like a quarter tank if we put a little fuel gauge up there right now. We talked like a minute or two more, and she's like, it's really on E. I said, well, let's take like a Ferrari. A Ferrari, the light's gone, we're past the fumes, no fumes left. So she was really like, done. I was like, well, what about a Ferrari? Awesome car, if it had zero, gas, no gas in it, where would it go? It was nowhere. And then she just like immediately clicked and said, I'm going home. It was like 10:15. And she said, I'm getting us up the rest of the day. I know I just need to do this right here, right now. And it was really this process of taking her through, well, where are you at? And what are you going to do about it? And just that simple tool, because I think like the reptilian brain takes over up here, where we're just like one-track mind, it's hard to focus, kids get up there, we all get up there, I think. Who's been in the red zone and knows that they've kind of been in an intense situation before? So just about everybody. So in this case, you need something simple. You need to know, okay, things are messed up, I need to go talk to somebody. Or they're not. Like green zone, if you're fully fueled and your mom's helicoptering around you, and your dad's like helicoptering around you too, and everybody's kind of watching every move you make, it's probably not necessary because you're able to handle it on your own. So it also kind of, as I keep using this and applying it on a daily basis, it's like, oh, I can see how this could apply, or or that could apply, or works for a teacher in one case, or even when you're in a healthy zone, we have maybe too much help when kids are okay. So address yourself basically, that's the next one. So address your stress is about, now what do we do about it? Okay, are we sure that this kid's been helped out with this one 10-minute session that we get with them or not? And do we give them something effective? So at the green level, it's good to do your stuff in the green. This is where if we're like wondering where this mystical, mysterious self-esteem and confidence comes from, it actually comes from doing those tough things, those challenges in life that you've got, so that you can have that self-esteem build and confidence build. And then friends and family is where people typically will turn to when they're trying to address something that's beyond what they can handle on their own. And then finally, like this might be a counselor or a therapist when you really need some help. And the time helps too, because if somebody just gets there and they've just had a freaked out morning and they're there momentarily, that's a lot different than the people who started breaking the record. When I started keeping track, well, how long was the question I'd ask? I'm in the red zone. Well then, how long? So now I've got a visual pattern of the invisible. So that's how the time really kicks in, is just with that question, how long have you been there? And it was a month, and then it was 3 months, and then it was 6 months, and then the record got broken by a parent. So I had a parent that said, yes, I'm in the red zone, and it's been a year. His affect was really low. He was asking about school homework stuff, and then it was like he kept really needing that counseling, and he was the first person I ever asked, are you feeling suicidal as a parent? Like, it gave me a tool to actually ask a parent that, because, well, you're my record breaker. Like, a year is a really long time to be redlining. Cars break down when they're redlining for a really long time. So it just has been a tool on a number of levels to really help guide what I'm doing with more confidence. Just to be, here's a simple tool, you're here, it's that long, and you need to decompress it. You can't stay up there. All right, so the other way to really get focused on decompressing it is going out there for somebody who can help you with those skills and abilities, and whether that's meeting with a counselor that helps you, especially like at the elementary school level. I really see this as key with the younger kids, and in families too, at home. You've got this ability to help build some of these skills, and I think we could be more proactive with that if we want to be preventative, so that you're getting more expert help before it gets to be a crisis. And that's just like learning these important skills of how do you deal with the drama and the meltdowns, and you can start learning that at a super young age. And my kids, the youngest of my own kids, is 7. All my kids understand this. It's a really simple system even for second grader, first grader to understand. And when it comes to that expert help, sometimes family and friends, not the most helpful, and especially friends when you're looking at high school. So we really need to find like trusted people to surround kids with, and if not, we definitely could have that role, I think, more built out in the schools, so that at these younger ages and as they keep growing, they're building their abilities proactively with some maybe training. All right, so another big one is the reassessing. What I start off with is just like, where are you at right now? So they'll put the mark. I put the mark way on the right-hand side, and I could just draw it up. I'll show you how to just draw it up on a piece of paper too. But then your next plot is backwards. Anybody know why we'd be going backwards with this? So this is the first mark. Like, they came in and they were here.
Trying to understand what led to getting them there.
Exactly. So I can't go forward. It's the future. So we go backwards and make a few more plots. So how were you yesterday? How were you the day before? Time, I don't put it defined on there, because how was it for this whole school year? Or how was it for that whole year for that parent? And it just, for the parent, it was like red all the way through. But this pattern for like a week or 2 weeks or something like that really gives you an idea. So this student had gone up into the red zone, came back down, but then was heading back up. Who knows how high if they don't get that help. But right now it's heading back up, so it was good for a little bit, and then it wasn't. And then after we met, it was there. Like, that's a real example that I created this around. So now I've got a visual. So now we've made the inside come out, like that movie. How many of you guys have seen the movie Inside Out? If you haven't seen it, it's incredible. I think it's the best movie I've ever seen on psychology. But So you've got a visual now. So there's the defense now, where Peyton Manning was reading the defense, and he has a visual, like the defenders are there. Our job's harder. We've got invisible defenders to figure out. We've got invisible red zone. But with this last reassessment, now as you kind of draw a picture of it, instead of just, well, I'm going through it in my head with the Likert scale. I'm not sure what a 7 means or a 1 means. And I've had kids have 7 and 1 mean the same thing too at times, which is crazy. But this is super simple, and it gives you an idea of, wow, this is kind of like if I was refinishing furniture. I took an old antique and it looks better, and I deliver it, and it's, you know, somebody's going to appreciate it now. So this visual difference is huge. So a couple case studies, like this is right off my whiteboard. So I guess I don't need to draw it over there, but just I draw, okay, this is a situation where I'm going to use it. I don't use it with every student, green, yellow, and red. So I have those markers there. This is just kind of going a little bit more in depth. A parent and a student arguing. What do you guys notice about that one?
Parents on the red almost.
Parents in the red. It's a lot of arguing going on here. Who's like okay with that?
What do you mean?
Yeah, that was from a student and the mom together. So yeah, that's the parent-teen dynamic sometimes, and they're running the show. Here's one. So I saw the student, and then I saw the student again, and then I saw the student again. What do you guys notice about that one? Those first 3 stars. Not working. Like we kind of assume, well, I don't have the furniture thing to refinish, but I can assume that what I'm doing is fine because it has to be. I mean, we just don't have a tangible way to measure this. We don't have a way to look at it. It's all a mystery. But in this case, I've had 2 cases now where it's gotten worse. Both cases, does anybody have a prediction around what happened with here? And there were one more person in the office besides the student? And me? There's me, student, and parent, yeah.
The assessment.
Both times it was a parent. And I didn't assess. I didn't pull this out this time. I didn't pull it out that time. But when the student came back the 3rd day in a row, I was like, I need to figure out what's going on here because this it should be better now. You know, able to get back to it and be fine now. But the deal was like the situation with the parent probably made mom feel better, not the kid. And it just really didn't meet the needs of what the kid wanted at that time. And it was really like there was an imbalance between school and personal stuff. And it was, can we get you closer to the balance? So I just kind of drew up a quick thing and spur of the moment, just so, well, where are you at with how much time you're focusing on school versus personal? It's like this other stuff is dominating. Well, what can we do to get you a little bit more toward where you need to be on school? And we just picked out the 2 missing assignments for the one class he had an F in. And that was literally the thing that made him feel better going out the door. It was a little bit lower because he had a concrete plan to do something to get it better. All right, so I'll keep looking through on over. All right, so this one was a person with Facebook stuff. So I helped her create a don't care solution. So creating a poker Facebook, so to speak. So with online and media, if you're getting in and digging into the drama and it's affecting you and you're letting everybody in the world know it's affecting you, are kids gonna stop messing with you or keep it going? Keep it going. And I don't know, I mean, I know that this kid probably might have been one that was stirring that up and doing that on purpose. But the idea was, let's figure out a way, what's really the issue? And it came down to Facebook, and it was, really how often it was happening, more than somebody creating a fake profile or whatever it was that was getting intense. It was just incessant, and it wouldn't stop. And so we just created a solution, she's not going to drop Facebook and just delete her account. So she decided that she was going to just try and keep up a poker face online and not post when somebody was egging her on, and just let it go. And we came up with a solution of journaling it and ripping it up, or texting it to a friend that she could trust, but not really sending the Facebook message, so she could send a fake message that she wanted to say because she couldn't really hold back from saying it, but say it in a way that wasn't really going to be public for everybody to see. Hey, we got you sucked in. All right, so sometimes it just gets almost like a beautiful mind on my whiteboard, but basically the key thing here is like, this kid didn't know how to be a good friend, and he was confused about, should I tell somebody my friend is here? I was like, okay, you've crossed this bright red line, and I want you to know that we can't have our friends crossing that bright red line and then pretend to be a therapist. And he's like, well, yeah, I was helping him so much, I was missing class all the time, and I couldn't focus in on school. I was really worried about him, but he just told me not to tell anybody else and that he really needed just my help. And I was like, well, if you really want to be the best friend you can possibly be, you need to know that when it's what you're risking. So what you're risking in this case is you're rolling the dice on his life. So that's, if you really want to be a good friend, you might not want to tell, he might not want you to tell, but in this case, the risk is too big. So anytime we cross that red line, I need you to know that you need to come seek out a counselor. And if you need to bring your friend here, say, I'll bring you there, I'll go with you. Or if they won't go with you, just need to let them know, I'm going to tell somebody because I care about you. I'm really trying to be your best friend and show you that I love you by going to get that help that you clearly need because you're in the red zone. And this common language, I think, can be super helpful just back and forth between friends. And when that normal interplay breaks down of I'm helping you, you're helping me, and it just gets that extreme, they need to go to a counselor. They need to go get help or dial 911 or get access to some kind of help when their friend is in the red zone. This one, I had a ninth grader that I was asking, like, I have some cases where we just don't know. Guys especially, they don't tell you, they don't show you, they don't just say, hey, let's go into the counseling office and hang out and chat. That's just not how it rolls usually in my experience in high school, as much as it does with the girls. And so I asked this ninth grader, who was close to one of the kids from last year, like, what would you do if this was the scenario? It's supposed to be happy, smiley here, and then maybe medium frowny here, and then like really showing outwardly that there's something going on emotionally. But what would you do if there is nothing showing? He said, well, I'd look closer. I said, well, I cut and pasted them. I'm trying to make a point that there's sometimes we just don't know. And then my whole SOS thing would break down completely. And he said, well, all right, so I can't just look closer and figure it out and get a better read. You know, like sometimes you can see things in Peyton Manning's case, but sometimes you just can't see anything. And he said, well, I got it. I just ask an extra question. I was like, well, what do you mean ask an extra question? He said, well, normally we're passing each other in the hallway and just like, hey, how you doing? And then we're just like, fine, or what's up, or whatever, and move on, and we just cross ways, and he goes to class and I go to class. But if we ask one more question, that would really do the trick. And I was like, tell me the question. Like, I really need to know what this question is. And he said, well, after you ask how you're doing, and it's just the regular old, we've got our mask on, guard up, I would ask, how are you really doing? So what to do is just simply kind of having this code that can be built into the school culture that says, I don't have to get to class immediately right now, I've got an open block, I can sit down with you for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and this could be our time to really check in. You know, we're trusted friends, you can let your guard down with me right now. And that was, I thought, brilliant. So a ninth grade kid solved, like, if this whole thing breaks down, you can't just be like happy all the time is what he said. That's not a normal teenager. And so if he's got a friend that's just too happy too much of the time, he'd be a little bit suspicious. And every once in a while, he can ask that question. And so that there's like a few students that really started latching onto that too. But what I'd really like to see is like this start to expand and spread. And I think as I've developed this, it just, to me, you know, the other day I had a student come in saying, I'm in the red zone. And just like that language, when she said that, and then we didn't use the chart at all. And she left out and said, I'm not in the red zone anymore. And it's like, this could be going on in any school in the district, any school in the country, really. And I think that's, you know, ASCA's recognize that too. Like there needs to be some kind of a common language and a way for us to have more of a tangible sense of not only where our kids at, but then, well, what does that guide us to do? How do we help them? So within this one, how are you really doing? I mean, can you guys see how that could really help a school culture if you got this kind of code word that kids can say to each other to say, hey, I've got more than a couple seconds, or even amongst the adult world, I ask some of my adult friends, well, how are you really doing? I've got an English teacher that I've been working with quite a bit, and or meeting with quite a bit, and that's when we get real with each other, we ask it that way. So I thought that was incredibly brilliant. Coming from a ninth grader, I've been at a loss for 15 years on that one. Like, how do you crack the kids that just don't tell you. When you ask how you're really doing, it helps out. So I want us to go green. And then here's my Michigan fan thing of the Michigan State game, and they're green. So out of the red zone and into the green, it kind of hurts to say go green, especially, I don't know if anybody saw that football game, but like 0 seconds on the clock, Michigan State had not led the entire game this year. Michigan is like having their best season in years and years and years. And here's my look. So I fill out the side here. It's kind of funny. But just like the Michigan punter just, I knew the therapist after that one. The Michigan punter just threw the ball to the Michigan State guy, and the Michigan State guy just ran for a touchdown. It was like, wow, like we won the game for 60 minutes and it's over and we lost. So that threw me up into the red zone. I got over it though, it was okay. But that's the deal, and I guess I'd like to finish up by saying I would love to have some beta testing before I'm going to present in New Orleans in July at the Ask a National Conference. So I wrote up a proposal at the state level. It didn't actually go through; they didn't accept it, and I actually said, okay, I can't make it at the JV level. Let's go to varsity then instead. So I polished it up, and it actually worked. So I'm really excited and thrilled about that. But everything, as you know, in our world is like evidence-based this and data-driven that, and it's just sort of an evolving tool right now. But I think they get it. The way I wrote the proposal up really focused in on that tangible piece, where we don't have that good sense of how do we know that what we've done is effective or not effective, or even worse, which, you know, I couldn't believe that in a couple cases already that could be worse. And it's not about that, you know, we did anything poorly sometimes. There's more going on, but to get a lay of the land and figure it out, a simple tool helps. So if any of you are interested in wanting to help me beta test it, I've not created like exactly what I'd be looking for yet, but that's something that I thought of today, like finishing this off of. If you guys want to try it out and start to help me evolve it too, I was thinking of maybe making a Facebook group to just kind of bounce off, here's what I'm seeing, here's some questions I've got, because I've been using it for quite a while. So, but I'm not like feeling like I'm the expert either. Like we all have this experience. Like even a 9th grade student was able to pull in something that helped grow this and evolve it and how to use it. So I'd really love to see like some synergy happen with more people using it and being able to give input and feedback and get a kind of a conversation going around it. So if anybody's interested in that, I guess I got 2 different things. One is I created a PDF for it that I've created for school counselors that you can access by just texting team, 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 to 33444. So if you guys want that, I didn't bring any handouts, but if you guys want to take a moment, if anybody wants to do that, I can repeat that. And then you can just maybe come up and I'll get a sign-up sheet or something going too, or you can email me. So just email Donovan Dreyer through the district email and let me know if you're interested in helping me out with this, because I'd really like to go there and represent St. Vrain really well. And if we can kind of, I'd love the support and to have some of that input and support from all you guys so I can represent as well as I can in July. It seems like a lot of time, but I also want to go there feeling incredibly prepared for that one. So that was team to 33444 if you want the PDF, and to get it just kind of in the mix, or you can email me, either one. And I can send out one of those color copies too if you want to make it, but I literally just have a whiteboard right next to me, or I've got this other little one I use sometimes with my markers and just draw it on there, and it's super easy. So you guys have any questions before I wrap it up? Yes?
When you said you were using the whiteboard, I'm wondering if that's something that a hard copy would be best saved or kept in a file with a kiddo that's maybe a repeater.
Yeah, so I've been taking pictures with my camera. So these little case studies, and I'll just take the board, and if I've got a name up there, I'll erase it and just put X. And so the cool thing is all these case studies become confidential. Unless it's okay, we know that girl's doing the Facebook thing right here this week. We know who that is. So, you got to use your judgment on that. But you can definitely use hard copies if you want to make those up. But I've been kind of keeping a record without name, but I think that's a good idea. And I think I've talked to some people about making an app with it as well, so that you can just keep, okay, I'm here, and then there, and it could just keep that record indefinitely.
Right.
Kind of envisioning if you keep these technologies, you could be a parent someday. If that app was started to use it now when you're a teenager, you can actually say, well, this is the way I was when I was 14, which would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful because I'm a middle school counselor, and oftentimes when you use verbiage, like you're trying to explain something and you know what it looks like in your head, and they can't grasp exactly what it is. The fact that, like, I love the empty tank thing, and the visual is what really stood out for me. I really appreciate that.
Sure, yeah, it's a visual world. With YouTube being the #1 website, I think that's the thought too, is like how many more things can we make more visual within this like invisible realm, and like that's the thing that's like kind of exciting, is we can kind of create patterns. And I kind of pulled this from my stock market experience too. So stock market, when it was like trying to understand the stuff in the book, I was a lot like those kids, like, yeah, whatever concept you're trying to explain to me in a stock market book, I don't get it. But when I saw it on charts, it was easy. I could tell if we're in a bear market, bull market, this is a good or bad stock, like that. And the visual makes all the difference in the world. Yes?
Yeah, I wanted to connect to that too. I've been doing a lot more just writing on dry erase boards with my kids too. And in our schools, there's a lot of talk about thinking maps, kind of exploring that in our world. How do we use that? And so it's been kind of fun to play around with that. The other thing I want to connect with, you mentioned just making it consistent throughout, grade levels through the district. And at the elementary level, we're exploring stuff that's very similar to this. It's called zones of regulation. It's almost exactly the same language that you're using. And we're finding that in our schools, it's an automatic emotional language that kids have when you're talking about them. You come in the room and they're like, I don't even know this all. When we talk about it. I mean, it's easy for us to access. So some of us at the elementary level are already tying into that really well. So I think it's awesome it's done, and it sounds like it's really going places. So I think some of us below are hopefully going to connect to that in an easy way.
And that would be cool, because then it will be stair-steppy, like
Well,
if
yeah,
we started in elementary school being, red zone, then the verbiage comes to them easily as they go through middle school, high school. It's already ingrained in them.
Yeah, I don't think the concept of the coloring, and I wanted to go with that common coloring for just that reason, because there's other tools out there. I think that the patterning was huge for me to kind of see, well, what's going on over the course of time, whether that's a couple of weeks or that could be like a year. And so those patterns within it, I think, is what really helped me figure out, well, what do I do under these different scenarios? And I think of all of them, I'm obviously most biased and attached to this one, even though they're so similar, because it's been my phoenix. Like, if you recognize, red zone was where all of Frederick was. Red zone was where all of Lyons was when there was a flood, or the whole school district. You can have entire communities, entire batches of people all at once right to the red zone, and then somebody from the outside could be like, what's going on? Why is this the way they're handling this situation? Like, this is crazy. This doesn't seem right. And you can kind of be armchair quarterback when you're not actually in the red zone looking from outside. But we have entire schools and communities flip into the red zone all at once. And so I think on that side of it too, it's like, oh, well, we're all there. Like, what do we do when we're all there? Like, we need like donuts and food, and we need all those good things. We need to help each other out, because those times are tough. And I think with it kind of being my little phoenix to get myself out of the ashes, or like if you're laying down on the mat being knocked out like Rocky a bunch of times, I think we've all felt that, where we're knocked down on the mat and it's like, well, like that teacher, I've got to be able to get up off the mat, I got to be able to do it. No, you don't. You might need to take advantage of those 6 counseling sessions from within the district. And I did that last year. That was one of my big things, is just this, I'm in the red zone. What do I need? A counselor. And that's why I took advantage of that last year, off of all those things that were happening and triaging it and trying to figure out how do we navigate all that. So yeah, the self-care is huge, and then knowing when it's beyond your self-care, or that your self-care includes help from somebody else, it's important. Yeah.
I appreciated too that we talked about colleagues, because, I think we often do a great job for kids in terms of when parenting, but many of us have colleagues that trust us, and so they come, especially around the time when evaluation is happening and all the pressure is data and all the pieces. We have a lot of people who come to us about how they're doing, and they've experienced that significantly, and they're just trying to get through grief and be part of, still doing their job. So I think those tools are good to use with colleagues.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like a red zone world at times. Like the whole world's in the red zone at once under some scenarios like 9/11, and some of these things are kind of like, okay, let's find an easy way to explain it too, to help us wrap our minds around some of the craziness too, when whole groups of people are in a troubled spot. Anybody else? All right, so now you guys know how to read the red zone, what to do in the red zone defense, and read like Peyton Manning call audibles, and hopefully Peyton Manning does a good job of that on Sunday and kicks some butt, Broncos. So, all right, thanks so much.